Hey, welcome back, guys. So today we'll talk about two new things. One is we'll talk about arrays, and second we'll talk about reading from a CSV file from your disk. Now, if you have been following my old videos, we spoke about two type of variables, namely we spoke about string variables, we spoke about characters, and we spoke about integers. So, and we also spoke about how to convert a character into integer. Now, what exactly is this array? So let's say, how do you define a character or a variable? We say $a equal to 4. Now we saw that this variable $a holds only one value into it, that is 4. So if I print a, it is going to give me 4. But how do I make it? And yeah, of course. So if I just see the type of this variable, get type, it says that it is an integer type variable and there is only one variable. But what if I do something like this, $a equal to 4 comma 5? So what essentially I want to do is I want to save two variables into this two values into this variable. So now you see that it has two different values. It has 4 and it has 5. Now 4 and 5 are fundamentally two separate variables. So if I say $a plus $a plus 5, it it does not add 5 to 4, or it does not add 5 to 5, but it actually added 5 as an additional value. So what earlier we used to do is $b equal to 4. Now if I do $b plus 5, it will give me 9 because 4 plus 5 is 9. But over here it did not do that. The reason is that now, because I added a comma, $a became an array, which means it is storing all the variables or all the values that I'm passing to it. So if I press $a, it is saying 4 and 5. If I if I want to add one more variable permanently to it, I'll do $a, it will say 5. Now let me see what is the type of this dot get. See, it says it's an array, system.array. But whereas if I do $b dot get type, it says system.value of type int32. So basically array is collection of multiple values. Now we'll talk about when you need an array, why, how do you use an array. But let us first start with how do you define an array. Now while you might have seen that I just did $a equal to 4 comma 5 equal to 4 comma 5. This is one way of defining an array. The correct way would be $a equal to @ 4 comma 5. Now $a gives me the same value. This is a correct way of doing it. Now there are some functions that you can run on this array. For example, I can do $a dot count. It is going to tell me how many values are there in $a. Now let me just say I'll initialize a bigger array, 4 comma 5 comma 9 comma 10 comma 23. And let me see what is the count now. So I have added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values to it. It shows 5. Now, how do I print a specific value? So I have to use something called as indexing. Now, indexing is nothing but saying $a of 0. So we call it $a of 0 when it is in the square brackets. And I'll just press enter. It showed me the first value. Now, one thing that you have to remember is that the array indexing starts from 0, not from 1. So if I do dollar $a of 1, it will actually print the second value. So the indexing starts from 0. Similarly, I can also find a variable using -1, which means the last value. Or I can do -2, which means the second last value. So you can either go from front or you can go from back. Clear? Now, there will be reasons when you don't know what the size of array is. Now over here, let's say I want to create an array of all the states of India. Now that is a definite value. So I can just go ahead and create a array saying states equal to @ and I start writing all the names like Maharashtra, I'll add Karnataka, and so on. But when you don't know what is going to be the size of your array, you can also create an empty array. To create an empty array, all you have to do is dollar, let's say I'll just call it em array, that is empty array, equal to @. Now this becomes an empty array. Now if I do a $em array dot count, it will give me 0 because it is empty. Now let me just add a, a value to it. So to add a value, what I will do is equal to, so space plus, plus equal to. This is the way I can add a value into array on the fly. So emarr space, and I'll say ABC. And if I now print em arr, it shows ABC, and the count now will be 1. Now you might have noticed that I can create an array for numbers as well as I can create array for string. Just like we can create a variable for numbers and we can create a variable for string or a character. No difference at all. Plus I can also create an array of mix type. So for example, I can create an array saying $mix array equal to @. So this is an empty array and I start adding numbers to it. So I say 1, comma, I will say 2, comma, 3, comma, 4. It still works. Let me just print $mix array. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, but 1 is number, 2 is in character, 3 and again 4. Now the thing is, if I index of 0 and try to see what is the type of it, get type, it is number. If I do 1, it is string. So it is intelligent enough to understand that whatever is in double quotes is my string and whatever is not in double quotes is my numeric value. It can be an integer or it can be a float. So you can, so basically what you can have is in an array, you can have a collection of values. Those values can be numbers, those values can be strings. Those values can be a mix of numbers and strings. You can add values to the array. You can remove values from array. We'll see about how to remove values from array when we reach there. But for now, we'll just say that we can add and remove. If you're just curious, I can just say uh, mix array dot, and it will give me all the options that I can run on this array. So over here, see, remove at. So I have remove and I have remove at. So using those functions, I can definitely remove the values. But for now, I'm going to keep it as is. So this is just a brief introduction of arrays. Now, when do I use an array? As I said, whenever I want to store the values, when I want to store the values of a certain type, I would generally create an array. But there are cases when array, so okay, I'll just go back. If I have to print mix array again, dollar mix array, this 1 2 3 4 are called as elements, and every element has an index. This is an array. This one is at index 0. So there is only one value at index 0. There is one value at index 2, 1. One value at index 2, one value at index 3. The count or the size of the array is 3 that we can find using dot count. Now, what if the first value of this array is also an array? Can I do that? Yes, I can do that. Where will I use it? Let's say if I'm reading from a CSV file. Now a CSV file is a comma separated file. Let me just share a CSV file with you. So what you see over here is a simple CSV file. What does it have? It has a column called name and a column called percentage. And the values in that CSV file are student1 and a percentage of student. Now, when I read this file, I want that these two values together should be at index 0, because they are for the same student. It will not make any sense if I start reading student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4, student 5 and 80, 81. There is not going to be any kind of correlation between that. So for that correlation, I should have both the values together. That is when I will have an array which has more than one values at each index. So how to do that? Now, to read a file from from your hard drive, or I would be very specific, if I want to read a CSV file, there is a command called as import-CSV. Now, if you just type import hyphen, you will get a lot of options. You will have to go to CSV. Now, what are the parameters that I need to pass to it? So I need to say import-CSV from a path, give the path variable, so that is C colon slash. Now I know that it is in test slash, the name is percentage.csv. Now I'll just say enter. Now this was exactly the file that we read. But now it just printed that file. This is as simple as that. I mean, there is no rocket science in this. What I will do is I'll just save it in a variable saying CSV input equal to shortcut. Just CSV input. Now it has imported it. Let me see if I can see that. Yeah, it is there. Now if I say $CSV input of 0, see, now I can see the first value. Now the first value actually is addition of two things, that is student 1 and 80. Not addition, it is combination of two. I can have $CSV input of 1. I can get it. But now what if I want to read only the percentage? What I can do is $CSV input dot of CSV input of 1 dot percentage. Now it will give me only percentage. If I type name, give me only name. So this is a basic way of reading a CSV file. We are going to do a lot of operations. This is again just an introduction to how you do it. I want you to practice this. Now I am also going to import a very big file now. So I'll say dollar car equal to, again, import hyphen CSV hyphen path, and I know the file path is a C:/ test slash, you will see there is cars.csv. So I'll just select that cars.csv and I'll hit enter. Now let me just clear the screen for you before we show what is the cars. Now this I'll just print car, and you'll see that this is a very big file. So to be precise, it has around 400 values in it. How to check how many values are there? I'll do count. Let me, so it is saying 406, which means there are 405 values and one for the header. So this header is 1, and then there are 405 values in it. Now let me show you something. What happens if I do car of 2? It is saying that the car name is Plymouth. Then the mileage, this MPG is mileage per gallon. So this is downloaded from a US site. So they work in mileage per gallon as compared to kilometers per liter or something like that. Then how many cylinders does it have? So it has 8 cylinders. Displacement is 318. Then they have horsepower, weight, acceleration, model, and origin, the country of origin. The country of origin is US in this case. Similarly, I can just do car2 dot. Oh, I think this is going to fail, but this is good. I expect an error now if I do car2 dot car, but I just want to see the name of the car. See, it shows nothing. We should have been able to see Plymouth satellite as the name. Why is it happening? Is because it considers this as a single line, whereas in our previous example of $CSV input, if I see the name and percentage, there were two different columns. Over here, it is considering it as single column. How do I make it different columns? Simple. I'll just import it again, but along with path, I will also add one more uh, parameter to it, and that parameter should be my separator, including header, delimiter. So this delimiter, I'll say, now I know that the delimiter in this case, or delimiter is something which differentiates between the two values. So between car and MPG, there is a delimiter called colon. So I'll just do colon, and I hope this will work. Now if I run $car, yeah, this is what I expected. So now you will see that it has 406 values, and this is a single value in that array. Now if I do $car dot, oh no, $car of 6 dot, now I can, in fact, you will be able to see all the parameters over here: weight, origin, MPG, model. I'll say model, and it says 70. If I say dot car, it will say Chevrolet Impala. Dollar cylinders or displacement, I don't know, origin, it will say US. So now I can work with a dot. And if I again go ahead and do $cars dot count, it will give me 406. So this is how you import a big CSV into your program, into your variable. We will, in the next video, will talk about for loop, for each loop, a while loop, where I will use the same CSV file to modify this data. The modify will start with the percentage, the small one, and then we'll also modify this data. Now, while you are going to practice, there can be a case where you don't even have this. Let me just share that cars CSV with you. Just give me a minute. So this is how actually that CSV looks like. This is how the CSV looks like. Now, what if this was not available? I'll just say Control X. I just want to save it so that I can. So I have removed the headers. Now I'll say save. Now let us see what happens when I do the same thing again. I say delimiter is colon, $cars, everything good. I'll say $car. Did you see what happened? It considered your first value. Let me just share my screen. This will be much more easier that. Share my screen. So if you see, what it has done is the first row it considered as the headers. So that is not entirely true. So what we will have to do is we will have to actually define the headers in this case. So again, delimiter, then I'll say header, and I'll define all the headers like I want. So I'll say car. Oh yeah, before that, let me just show you one more thing. If I do dollar car of 6 dot, now I don't see the car name, the weight and all, which I was able to see before. I'm actually seeing some values which I don't understand at all. So to clear that problem, I would import it and tell it the headers. The headers will be our name. I'm giving new headers to it. Then the second one is, I'll say kilometers per liter. KMPL, I'll convert it to Indian standards. Then I'll say, again, I'll say cylinders. I don't know what the fourth header is. I'll say header 4. Then I'll say, oh yeah, header 5. It is getting difficult. I'll say years, because it could be anything, but I'm just saying years. Then I'll say model number, and I'll say country, and I'll import it again. Now let me see what this car look like. See, it now says car name, KMPL, cylinder, header 4, header 5, years, model number, and country. Now again, if I go to car of 10 dot, see, now I start getting those. Please ignore the spellings. I'm very bad with the spellings. Now I start getting all those names again. So this is how you import a CSV into your program, and this is just a basic uh, of arrays. Now, as we go forward, I will also talk about something called as a hash. It is too early to talk about hash. In hash, you have a key value pair, which will look very similar to this. Like, to give an example, the key would be student, and the values would be he has a name, he has age, he has his favorite subject maybe. So we'll talk about that, but currently I would say, yeah, it is good base for us to start the next video. So I'll suggest you go through this part, get your hands dirty for a little bit, and we'll meet in the next video where we talk about about for loops, about while loop, and how to actually use and consume this CSV file. Okay, so till then, have a good day.